Welcome back, you guys. This is the Art School Graduate Podcast. Today, I have a phenomenal guest with me. He is a culture builder, creative strategist, and a founder of AAGD, a platform that's uplifting Black designers across the globe. From New Orleans to Austin, today, my guest is Terrence Moline. How are you doing, Terrence?
I'm doing fine. How you doing? Where you at?
I'm, d- I'm good, man. Out here in California, we just got a little bit of rain. so,
Wow.
so
What part of California?
LA County, like Pasadena.
Pasadena.
I'm right outside of LA, yeah. So we're
Gotcha.
about 15 minutes outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I've been checking out your podcast. I have a 311 gig at work. I'll get into why that happened, and I'm very happy to integrate it into our conversation. But like from 8 to 11, I kind of can just like shut the world out and do whatever I want to do. So I've been
Okay.
listening to your podcast like one after the other.
Thank you.
And just like listening to what some of these luminaries have to say, I'm very
Mhm,
appreciative of you picking up that mantle, that
mhm,
torch, because I'm 51, just turned 51 yesterday, right?
mhm.
And to
Well,
see
happy
somebody,
belated birthday.
thank you, to see somebody be so cognizant of what's happening with African Americans in the graphic
Mhm,
design field and decide to do something about it made me very happy.
mhm.
So I congratulate you. I look at your path. I got a bunch of questions about your podcast.
That's
And yeah, yeah. And so yesterday I was talking to Maurice, and then
mhm,
just about one of the questions that you were asking, and it's like, how can you use design as a healing path and tool in our community? And so that's something that I failed on so many
mhm,
different levels. I don't know if like the other people who are in my class, like I consider
mhm,
Maurice in my class just because we were all of the same age, noticing
yeah,
some of the same things that you
mhm.
noticed. And some of the things that you noticed, you said were people like you weren't coming across a lot of Black designers in classes. Okay. And what else?
It was just that was something. Oh, that's interesting to be interviewed. But that's super cool. But no, let's go with it. So actually it was like it started off in high school, like with design for me. And then once I got to junior college, I was just like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go the art route because I tried sports medicine, being an athlete, playing football my whole life. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do sports medicine. I've been in the training room. I know how to take care of myself and rehab it, but those sciences were not friendly to me. So all those sciences. So I went to the art route. And then that's when I didn't start noticing it that I was like kind of like the only one in these art classes and design classes until it was like university and graduate level that I was like, oh wow, okay, that's interesting. So that's why when it came to Maurice, when I had reached out to him and spoke with him, I was just like, man, you put together such a huge catalog of like designers and creators. I was like, but I don't know anybody in my group. I'm 37. So to be 37 and not know anyone from your circle. Well, I know I had friends that I've done it with, but just like people of color, I didn't run into any. And so that's why I was kind of just like curious, like we're out here, but where are we? What are we creating? What are we, what do we do?
Yeah. Yeah, what is our voice? Like we hear of all these major design movements, but like we're not included in those. And so you had a very similar path to me when I graduated high school in '92. The thing that helped me get into graphic design, because I was a kid who had like the different level fade with
Yeah.
you know, paint
Yeah.
on jeans and with some of them jeans in high school. And I did yearbook.
Hmm.
Yearbook was my first chance. Was like, oh, I can put like all these things together, and that's really
Hmm.
cool. And there was a senior at the time who was going to Loyola in New Orleans as a graphic designer. And
Hmm.
so I had the opportunity to talk to her. And I was like, this seems like something I could do. I have a deep love of music. So I went to school for both. I got a partial music scholarship
Hmm.
and I was trying to do design at the same time. And so I had a double major. And I decided at some point in time that I did not want to tear music apart analytically every time I heard it, because that's what I started doing. I just wanted to
Hmm.
enjoy it. I knew that I wasn't going to make a lot of money as an artist, and graphic design seemed like the thing that made the most sense. It's like, I don't want to be a starving artist. And so that's why I picked it. And it's
Hmm.
definitely, I am not an art school grad. Yeah, I am currently I have, like, a ridiculous amount of hours, probably enough for, like, 2 majors and a minor, but I just
Mhm,
didn't fulfill the requirement, so I'm talking to my teacher about that now. And so, in my design classes, there were a few other Black people, um, but we never really got together to do anything. But
mhm,
was me trying to go to those national like AIGA events and other events where I was
yeah,
like, why are there in New Orleans of all places, right?
mhm,
Was
yeah.
60% Black or even if I was there. Why are we not congregating and talking about this field and understanding how to navigate it together with so many Black businesses actually being? And so that is where the impetus for African American designers really started.
That's dope. Yeah, because and we were speaking about it beforehand about just finding like almost the tribe, that tribal
Mhm.
thing where it's like for you being in New Orleans, it's probably easier to find your tribe than it is for me being in California.
Interesting. It depends, right?
Yeah, it depends. I think it greatly depends on geographical location sometimes.
And then, also, even within New Orleans, I can't say that a lot of the people were looking at, design and technology,
Mhm,
right? And so being in that world by yourself and trying to, like, find people who understand what you're doing, that became very difficult. And I think in the initial stages, I reached out to several designers because it was like, well, I know this person works for Liberty Bank. They're the
mhm,
tip largest bank, Black bank. So they have to have Black. Right? Like there were different organizations where I'm like, you have to have people that are Black that are working on it. So I
yeah.
started collecting the names. I reached out to them and they did not want to meet. They were just like, why are you reaching
Mm.
out? Are you trying to you're trying to steal my clients, trying to steal my trade secrets. And I'm like, nah, bro, I just want to talk.
Right.
Um, so I finally met up with one guy, David Blanchett. David Blanchett is the person who owns this thing called Logo. For I think when I met him, he didn't actually start, or he's just getting started on LogoPod. He was a developer. We just started
Mhm.
working on projects, and then Hurricane Katrina hit. I know.
Yeah. Wow. So, how did that cultural richness from New Orleans like help you with your approach to like design and storytelling?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can answer that several different ways. But right now, what has resonated in my life is it
Mhm,
boils down to one simple question, like how does New Orleans influence my design and storytelling? Uh, Asking somebody, did you eat yet? I know it sounds weird, may sound simple, but in New Orleans, that is how you like started conversations with everybody,
yeah.
neighbors, strangers, friends, family, right? And that's something that's so basic to the human need that everybody has a need and a
Mhm.
desire to be filled and stories associated.
Oh,
I
wow.
can give you a deeper example if you'd like, but I want
Yeah.
to do it.
Please, please, please. I'm intrigued by that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So like for instance, my neighbor. We
Mhm,
live in Austin. Austin is definitely different. I am technically a gentrifier, in this neighborhood that used to be Black and Hispanic. And so we have a lot of neighbors that are non-Black. They're much younger. They're in tech, and they don't have that cultural richness all the time that we have. And
mhm,
so getting to know them, it's always like I'm outside grilling because it's what you do in New Orleans. You grill, you make food, you share with your neighbors. That's what my mom did. She was like the central hub because we moved to an all white neighborhood back in
mhm,
the 80s. And she was just like cooking red beans, gumbo, and right near
mm,
her. And so that's sort of how I began understanding the power of the cultural richness of New Orleans and just being able to
mhm,
provide basic, vibrant things for people. And so as I studied like psychology and communication more, I started understanding that not only asking people, did you eat, and inviting them to dinner was a very good way to start building culture around you, but it also is a very good vehicle for stories. Like yesterday, I was
mhm,
driving on the road and I saw this old dude on a back road selling fresh shrimp, which is hard to get in Austin. And so I stopped and I was talking to him about shrimping and we were talking about tariffs, we were talking about everything. And then he was telling me his story. And so these
mm,
these things that like evolve around food or evolve around natural resources, I think all of those things that I'm super cognizant of, especially when I'm making dishes, has
mhm.
really informed how I approach design and storytelling. It's just like collecting the assets and remembering you're talking to this guy just make sure
Yes.
and then picking your ingredients and then making sure everything is presented in a certain way. That's all I do in design all day. So there's constant parallels between like New Orleans culture in terms of food preparation and the community gathering that I bring into design.
So what sparked the transition? Because that's a big polar polarizing difference from New Orleans to Austin. So what sparked that transition?
Yeah, so, every year we have hurricanes, right? And, we have hurricane parties when it comes by because nobody takes them seriously. And so every if you wanted to take it seriously, it was time for a vacation because technically your jobs were like, "Well, you can't be here," and so everybody would take vacation. There's this guy named Tosin who's a designer, and we worked together on this, company called Renaissance Records. It was a
Mhm.
record, company birthed out of Loyola in New Orleans. And, we became friends, was kind of mentoring him a little bit. And he lived in Weberville, which is right outside Austin. And he'd always asked me to come visit him. And we had been everywhere else that we could drive to within a certain range. I never wanted to go to Texas. Definitely never, Austin was never on my list. And we expected tumbleweeds and cowboys. And when we got here, we were just like, oh, that's kind of cool. We might want to stay here. This was because Hurricane Katrina came in '05, right? And we needed a place to like hang out. And I was like, Chelsea and I'll kindly come visit you. And so that's how I landed in Austin. The thing that made me stay in Austin is my ex and I have been looking at real estate just like as a fun hobby. We had seen some things changing in New Orleans and we're like, oh, they're asking that much for that house. Are they crazy? And then they would get it. I was like, okay, so let's start looking at some real
Mhm.
estate. So we closed on our first house. Took us 7 months to close because we wanted to
Mhm.
work with a black real estate agent. That's another story. And we closed 3 days before the storm. 3 days before,
Wow.
right? Yeah. And so
Wow.
and then it took them 6 months for us to actually get the money from the house because the insurance agency was like, "Oh, no, it was wind damage, and that's what caused the flooding," and it was just crazy. Uh, but out of that, I was able to, like, go to Austin and just notice some similar patterns within real estate. And so that's when I started buying stuff here, and that kinda cemented us in Austin.
Wow, that's crazy that you had to go through so many, like it almost seems like so many hoops that you had to, like, jump through to get there. Do you ever think, "What would it be if I woulda stayed?"
Yeah, I do, briefly. Because I remember when I was in New Orleans, all I could talk about was moving away. And I had my client set up in New Orleans. I was just like working with the people that I drove up in my childhood, like City Park. I think I'm better off. There are some life changes that happened, got remarried. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I wouldn't want to raise her in New Orleans, I'll be honest. Austin is much safer. And believe it or not, there's a lot of intelligence in healthcare because of the tech industry. So the people that she goes to it, there are different caliber. Like there's so many
Mhm.
things that are different. As for my career, I really don't know if it would have been. I don't know if AAGD would have been what it was because the reason why I really started focusing on that was the idea started in college. But when I came to Austin, I had an opportunity to have a year off, and that was because I finally like got paid for the insurance claim for the house, right?
Mhm.
And I talk numbers because not we don't talk numbers enough in the black community. For
Mhm.
like $165,000 that I was sitting on and a house that was worth like 119. So it was the
Oh,
first
wow.
time that I was like, oh, I could travel. Yeah. I can travel and I could buy all of my Mac equipment and stop pirating.
Listen, you're not alone in that. I have shared this story many a time with the designer I've interviewed.
Yeah.
I got my first Mac thing from Craigslist. I met a dude at a restaurant. He put
Oh,
it on my computer with a CD. I kid you not.
that's
And
not
this
the
is where
CD though. It's a dark
and then
restaurant.
he and then he had the codes. I think it was like a Jack in the Box or a McDonald's. We just sat there because it had free Wi-Fi. And he was like, "Don't
Oh,
get on." He was like, "Don't get on the Wi-Fi." Here, and he just put it in there and put his codes in.
and that's how you survive.
That's how I survived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That's hilarious.
so right after Katrina is when I was just like my whole black creative community because I really didn't hang out with just designers. I was hanging out with poets,
Mhm.
musicians, and all those people were scattered. And this is right around the time where Facebook just finally let people without college dresses be able to peruse, right?
Mhm.
And so I really started looking for African American graphic designers and quite frankly was fussing at people. Just like, hey, why don't you put it in your metadata that you're African American so that when I'm looking, I can find you. And so until LinkedIn hit, it was like really hard finding everybody. But between the
Mhm.
Facebook group and LinkedIn, that's where I started really connecting and being assertive with making sure that I connect with other African American graphic designers. I don't know if I would have taken that national approach if Katrina did.
So it seems like you were building something or you are building something. And so I just want to touch on this thing you've said before about yourself that you're like a cultural builder.
Yeah,
So like what does that actually mean to you in your
yeah.
practice or just in general?
Yeah, I'm going to give you an example outside of design because right now I am, maybe midlife crisis.
Mhm,
Probably not. I've just been in it for so long. Until the job I was talking about, like I have a 3 to 11 job, so that I can run my business in the daytime. A lot of my clients were hit by this current administration, and that includes like small or big people, like the Smithsonian, the African American Museum. That it was a contract I was about to get done, and all of a sudden it's just like, and I would say that's happened with a lot of my clients. So
mhm,
because I have a family, I want to secure my life,
mhm,
and I also want some time to reflect and rebuild. So let's see. At that job, I work with kids who have extreme behavioral problems, right? And being a community builder in that environment means making dyads. Dyads are okay, let's build with these two people. Let's help them have a relationship together because they're fighting. And
mhm,
let's find out what commonalities they have and figure out what things that they can do together. And then after that, I'm going to build a triad. Let's find a third person that's going to fit with this so that we can start building slowly on these blocks. Let me get to listen to them. Let me understand their needs. Let me read their file cases. Let me understand everybody who's their support team. And so that I can help them and assist them as they're trying to build together. Let me identify the leaders out of this group so that I can have a core. Then after the core, it's like, let's build a small group and let's have a
mhm,
small group built on commonalities. And then
mhm,
let's decide like who's going to have these responsibilities out of these small groups and how do we hold each other accountable. And so for me, that's what it means to be a community builder. And sometimes that means focusing on like some of the people who are the biggest challenges first,
mhm,
just so that we can figure out if we can figure out how to solve their problems, it makes it a lot easier to solve the
mhm,
problems that are not as extreme. And I think as a community builder, that's what I do. I don't care if it's those kids or I don't care if it's African American graphic designers. I find a lot of being a community builder, which was not initially expected, is
mhm.
individual relationships, listening, being there. I thought that it would be just like, oh, we're just gonna gather everybody together and it's just gonna automatically work and everybody's gonna like want to be friends. It's not how it really works. How it works is hundreds of individual conversations, understanding what people like, what they're looking for, what their preferences are. I mean, working with African American graphic designers, African Americans as a whole, and Black people have trauma. We're on the spectrum just like everybody else. And so getting to understand all of that stuff to help form these units of
Mhm.
groups is extremely helpful. I also think that I'm a community builder because like I really study it. There's this really great site called Micro Solidarity. That's one of the places that I started really looking at to understand techniques of building congregations. There's books by Seth Godin. There's books by a bunch of people, especially when social media hit and everybody was talking about building online communities. That's
Mhm.
something that I really studied a whole lot. And I think those things,
Mhm.
especially my pursuit and the way that I handle individuals, makes me a community and culture builder. I mean,
So
okay, go. I'm sorry.
no, 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 go for it. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, and culture is a thing that is the byproduct of building community.
It is. So I'm curious, you said what was it was a micro it was,
A micro solidarity.
what explain that, please. I've never heard of that.
So at some point in time, everybody was thinking, let's just have all of these online groups and let's make them as big as possible. Like even with my Facebook group, it started off, I was getting to like 5,000 people, right? And it's like,
Wow.
oh, 5,000 people on Facebook, that's a huge deal, right? Not
Mhm.
really. Because out of those 5,000 people, who's really making connections? Like, what are you really doing? What is your output, right? And so micro solidarity is more like, okay, why don't you start at like the smallest kernel and start building from the smallest kernel. Start with building dyads, then you go to triads, and then you look for these things. This is how you build a congregation. So it really flipped the narrative of how all of these like online. I'm gonna show you how to make $30,000 a month building community. It just kind of flipped that on its head. It just gave me
Mhm.
a really fresh perspective in how to approach community building.
Oh, wow. Man, I'm learning so much today. I've never heard of that ever. I'm like, that's interesting. So, do you feel as a culture builder that you make these little pockets and then do you feel like you have to exit them in order for them to grow continuously, or do you feel like
Ooh.
you need to be present in every single one of these little, because I know you have one with the Facebook. I know the one on LinkedIn. So it's like you're
Yeah.
I don't does that do you ever feel stretched or pulled?
In the beginning, yeah.
Mm.
I think everything after a while, you just get a rhythm of playing in the pocket. Uh,
Yeah.
I love that you use pocket. That's a terminology that they use for drummers. So you leave that slight space for people to hit on that rhythm so they're not
Mhm.
overtaking them. So playing the pocket is something that I think I have learned how to do very well. Do I think I need to be a part of all of them? No. Um,
Mhm.
do I find that I need to like do touches on a bunch of communities? Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of online communities, even national design organizations are struggling. Like if you look, I'm no longer part of AIGA, but if you look, like you'll see me in that community doing the same thing, right?
Got you.
Yeah, and so it benefits me because
That
even
makes
if I'm like
sense.
just touching on them and not being the because I never wanted to be in the forefront. My ultimate goal was to be like, hey, this thing is running. Let me now go work on something else. Let me be quiet. Let me just look at all the fruit that I have developed from all of my work.
Mhm.
But that's not exactly what happens.
Mm. Do you find yourself more or less want let me see, how can I verbalize this? So do you find yourself making it and hoping someone will continue it, or do you find yourself making it and just telling people we're here?
Both.
Okay.
Definitely making it and, like, people like you, your age bracket, when I see you pick up, that's what I was always hoping for, like,
Mm,
okay, they're gonna see that we're busting our ass to create these things. They're gonna like, "Oh my
mhm,
god, we needed that. Let me make sure that I keep this thing running."
mhm,
Um, that that's not exactly the reality right now.
mhm,
Um, However, I have not given up hope, I don't. So right now, we have, our first chapter at Prairie View, A&M in
mhm,
Texas, which is a HBCU. And I'm learning to kind of like pull back a little bit, but just kind of provide guardrails to see what they do. And then
mm,
also encourage them one way or the other to continue to meet. Because a lot of people of different generations have aspirations, but don't exactly know how to make those things flourish. Right.
mm,
And so I think it's now important for me to step back because as long as I'm in the forefront, people will keep coming to me like, "Oh, that's the dude, that's the dude," and that was
got
never
you,
my goal. It
got you.
was like we are the people who need to come to each other, and so it's
Mm,
both been disappointing for me just because of the vision that I had, which was
mhm,
incorrect, and now the reality is, and the things that I write about is like, okay, I thought I was going to have community, but now I'm understanding I have to build community. I have to show people what community is from like the ground level, from like when you move into a neighborhood, ask your neighbors if they want to eat, talk to them. If you see another Black designer somewhere, reach out to them. If you're on LinkedIn and you see somebody that's interesting, just like reach out to them.
mhm,
So yeah, I think that to answer your question, is both. Now I'm understanding that I just need to be here. I don't have to be as active because if I'm active still as I used to be, I'll just burn out. And
yeah.
you reach that point. And so like I am purposely pulling back right now, looking at my family and understanding what I thought was going to be reality for this African American Black design community versus
Mhm.
what they need right now, especially with changing administrations, AI, and everything, these different fronts that we're being attacked.
Oh, wow. Yeah, very true. So let's talk about this a little bit. But you've been in the game like long enough in this industry to see like so many things evolve and shape. Were there any lessons that you learned early on that still shapes how you maybe approach putting together a group or putting or talking to other designers or even designing yourself?
Yeah, learn marketing. So that's something that I'd never really wanted to learn marketing. But as a designer, even in my early years, I was working as a designer in college, getting paid for doing flyers and side
Mhm,
work, right? And I would always have these arguments with the people that were giving me the assignment, and a lot of those people were in the marketing school, right?
mhm,
And so, like, I just started really picking up a book because I didn't have any ammunition, right, for
mhm,
the things that they were telling me. So I was like, okay, let me pick up this book by Kotler and let me read it. And so once I read that, it started giving me like a vocabulary to have conversations with people that I was working with, the
mhm,
people I work for, and then potential clients. I also worked for Goodwill Industries of Central Texas as an art director for a few years. And somebody cruelly said, one of my bosses, like, you're so creative and you're wasting your time with the graphic design. You should study marketing. And I was like, huh,
Wow.
okay. And so I continued. So that's definitely one thing I would tell somebody. Marketing, not just for like to understand how to have conversations with everybody. Oh, Douglas Davis has a great book on that. Oh, I'll give you the name, but his book is great. I would actually recommend that book. Oh, beautiful book. Anyway, I would recommend that book. And so the reason why I would say marketing has worked for design and community also is because I go ahead.
I found it. Creative
Good.
Strategy
Oh
and the
yeah.
Business of Design.
That book is gold. Written by a brother.
Okay.
He's killing it. Yeah, I love that book. Uh, and so even with the community, understanding that you need to get this information and data from your target audience to understand what to
Mhm.
build is something that I think has been very powerful.
So, what was the one project you've worked on that felt like a cultural artifact, like something that was going to have a strong and lasting impact?
So strong and lasting impact for the Black community as a whole, for the client and their mission, or for my team. Do you want me to just pick it?
You pick it. You
Okay.
pick it.
Yeah, so like design for me, I don't longevity in design and producing artifacts. I don't always know. I'm not always guaranteed, especially if there's some type of great catastrophe, right? Like Katrina, where all your portfolios, all that shit is just washed away and gone,
Yeah.
right? So like that mentality for me has kind of faded. I would say the biggest thing that's had a cultural impact that was lasting for me was
Mhm.
working on the Princeton's Black Student Alumni,
Mhm.
because it was the first time that I really assembled like this Voltron team of designers, right,
Yeah.
to tackle this huge job, and we killed it and we knocked it out the park. The work that we did was beautiful. We met with
Mhm.
people. And I think why it was such a huge cultural impact for me and my team is because we were on the phone with like Craig Obama and we didn't even realize.
That's crazy.
And they were like, Craig, do you have any input? And I was like, huh, Craig. And I picked it up and we're like, oh, it's good. And
That's hilarious.
just to see the team just like freak
Mhm.
out and light up, that is in my brain.
Mm. That's dope. I can imagine that too. You're just like, why does this sound I feel like I know this. And then it's just a simple Google and you're like, oh, snaps.
Yep.
Oh, man. So, just curious, how do you know, well, better yet, how do you ensure that design work just doesn't look good, but it does good? That's
Oh yeah.
something you said.
Yeah. There are two things. Like I believe in designing my life. Yeah, that's one thing I want to teach any graphic designer, young, old, whatever. Design your life. Um, I don't design things that are just like they want to sell this for this thing.
Mhm,
Like I want to make sure that every project I work on has some type of value to me and my community.
mhm,
The reason why I can design things that don't just look good is because I'm a nerd. And all of these historical projects, like we're talking about the Death Penalty Information Center and all the reports I do on them,
mhm,
when they give me this topic and they're like, yeah, we want to see this, I think about all the traditional tropes that people have used, especially like, what is it? Dr. Diana Ramey Berry has a really good word for this. It's like displaying Black trauma, even with our lynchings and all those other things that we see a lot of. If I
mhm,
could take those subjects and produce graphs or illustrate in ways that are insightful, but not the normal trope, then that's what I'm always going to strive to do. And that's
mhm,
how I feel like I can do things that are like not just look pretty, but make sense and present these ideas in like incredible
mhm,
ways that have not been done before.
mm. Have you been to the Legacy Museum in Alabama?
No, wait,
Montgomery,
no,
Alabama?
I might have because I've been in Montgomery and I did go to a museum, but I'm not sure if it's that one.
I th Go if you can. I think that would help in your process of that data and information and helping it visualize. Just because when you said it, it went back to my head where it was just like the Legacy Museum and Alabama because my wife and I we went there I think it was last year. She had got me ticket like pretty much I'm the only kid that was not born in the South. I was the only
Oh,
California kid. All my siblings were either Memphis or Georgia. That's where both of
okay.
my parents are from. And so we went to a Georgia game, and being an art guy, I was like, I want to go to the Legacy Museum. And I figured out like, hey, it's about a few hours drive from Atlanta. Like, let's do it. So we did it, and I think you would find it very profound if you ever on that side of
Oh,
town or near Atlanta. I think it's like a 4 hour drive.
okay.
I might be wrong, but definitely look into it. The data, the information, because they have it. Um, like they have so many like it's almost gut wrenching, but also
Mm,
kind of like, damn, we had to fight to get through it.
yeah.
It literally starts us off from the slave ship and brings
Mhm.
us to modern day. And it
Okay.
breaks down every step we had to endure as Black people, along with the graphs, the numbers, the calculation, even some of the visuals where it was they had jars of dirt from lynching sites.
Oh,
And
wow.
the way they found that was based off of postcards, newspapers, letters that people had, and they were just research and they found these specific sites. So definitely go there. Go.
That's incredible. Okay, it is on the list.
Yeah. So because it was just in my ear because you're talking about like legacy and all that stuff. I was like, he needs to go. Hopefully he's been, but definitely take a chance and go there.
All right. All right.
So so hopefully you had a little bit of time to think about it, but goes back to our original question we started with.
Okay.
How can design serve as a healing and transformative tool?
Design research can. So okay. It's a tough question because like I'm thinking about two things. What
Okay.
I thought design could do, and it depends if we're talking about like surface level design, right? Can I make African American graphic designers and all we do look very visually appealing and
Mhm,
show to people outside of design that African Americans can design in several different ways? That
mhm,
was one of the biggest things about the branding for African American graphic designers was to show our talent, but not
mhm,
in like the traditional flyer or church bulletin way.
mhm,
So that's one way. The other way I think though is through design and research. And so what we're understanding is stuff like we can create this group, but that group is going to give us information and data. And
mhm,
then we're going to have to look at that data and constantly reassess what
mhm,
programs we're designing, how we're communicating with them so that we can actually reach their needs. And then if we are trying to gather community information, but no one's talking, because that actually
mhm,
happens a lot. I think Maurice kind of touched on it too about like feedback from community. So then you have to start redesigning ways to actually get feedback from your community so that you can
mhm,
understand what to build for them, even if they choose not to show up, which is
mhm,
just like an entirely like mind blowing thing for me to like have to do. But it's like, if these are the things that have to be designed to actually reach the community, then those
mhm.
are the things that I have to do.
Now, since you've been in the game so long, why do you think we choose not to go towards those assets? Like I listen,
Right.
I've been teaching now, I'm going into 15 years and I'm noticing I'm having less and less students of color in my class. So
Mhm.
why do you think we're not all gun ho for graphic design, or even when we get in graphic design to continue to like reach out and connect and have these conversations and use these resources?
Yeah, that's a very complex conversation. I like the question. Traditionally, like there are research papers. Amara Souza has a
Mhm,
research paper. I think Jacinda Walker has a research paper on like the pipeline and the challenges that African Americans have to reach graphic design. Economically, it's not something that's affordable for everybody, although that's changing for
yeah.
good. Although every designer seemingly hates it. Like you've got Canva, you've got AI. So
Yeah.
I think that they'll have more opportunities because even my daughter is 13. She gets what graphic design is. I can't say my
Mhm,
parents completely do, right?
mhm,
So they're more exposed to it, but now they're exposed to it in ways where it's not like there's no community, there's no foundation. You just go to Canva, you go to Instagram. So there's no impetus for them to
mhm,
try to find things like Revision Path or Cheryl Miller's book or all those things. And all of those things, even my group, like we're all in danger in many ways 'cause people don't support this. If you don't buy books, if not you specifically, if we don't buy books,
Mhm.
they're out of print, right? Because they're not
Yeah.
making money. And so how to get to this generation where they understand that they need to reach out to us is gonna have to be a marketing effort, probably from a collective of us who are
Mhm.
hell bent on making sure that this tradition is passed on.
How do we get the next generation or group of creators to actually speak their mind without, because like, I don't, you're in teaching too and you've seen it. They don't speak up. How do we pull that out of them to be like, hey, use your voice, use your culture, use your background in this? How what do you think is a tool that we could use for that?
The only way that has been successful for me is the individual conversations to understand their challenges and the blockades for being able to do that. Because I think that although it may seem like it's something that's monolithic, it's
Mhm.
based on the individual. And then like finding ways to highlight and encourage those assets that they can talk about so that they can gain courage to speak up in that.
Yeah, I've. It's just those are questions I always ask.
Yourself?
Design myself and other design instructors because it's like when you get that one, you're like, yes, yes. But then it's like it stresses me out a little bit.
It's not the norm. Think like most
Mhm.
people that I've encountered, especially in my group, introverts,
Yeah.
uh, not confident because, being an artist in the African American slash Black community is not heralded that much,
Mhm.
right? Uh, Parents don't have confidence that people can find jobs, right? And so I think that there's this shadow, right? That is over something that's over most of us. And that, every once in a while you have somebody who's gung ho who has the agency and voice. But I think for the most part, it's something that we're gonna have to like really it's like the whole question about redesigning or designing for community. I think it's like the people who know are going to have to get together and find out how to design things so that we can better understand how to get these people, our target audience, to be more active and have more voice.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So now, out of curiosity, what caused you to make the AAGD, the African American Graphic Designers? And like, how has that community grown over the years? Like, what was the first initial thought? Was it, hey, kind of like me, I don't know anybody really doing this. Let me create a space or reach out to them, or was it more of just you noticed that there was a lack?
I'm gonna for it started in college, but then I think the thing that really after Katrina and being in Austin, I signed up for an AIGA because I have money.
Yeah.
The business, it was like a business program,
Mhm.
right? And in that program, I swear, like every other business owner was like, "Oh yeah, I've had this design firm. My dad left me money. Blah 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 blah. Oh, I had this design firm. My partner's a doctor. Blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Wait a second, y'all have capital. Wait, from all these different resources. You don't have
Mhm.
capital like that." And so I think it was that really made me go, "Okay, like." I need to talk to my people. We need to kind of talk about strategies. We need to talk about how to work together so that we can change the narrative in the design and the iconography and the image
Mhm.
of African American designers and understand that, it takes capital, it takes community, it takes collaboration. I think that's what really lit a fire under my ass to
Mhm.
get done.
Mhm.
um, it's changed. It grows and swells. You're like asking, like, where is it now? Like, so initially, when I was able to take control of the Facebook group, I found that there are several people requesting African American designers to work on their projects. Because you have all these
Mhm.
African American entrepreneurs, all these people who are starting to learn about marketing, and they're like, where are the Black designers? And so because of keywords, that's one thing after the storm. I took a year off, so I have money. And learned how to paint. And I started like learning how to build websites and search
Mhm.
engine optimization and all that other stuff. So I started finding that people were actually looking for us.
Mhm.
And I started handing all of that work to people in the community because I've always just been like, we have enough to eat. I don't have to like take all this stuff myself.
Mhm.
But then to my dismay, I was finding out like there was a level of professionalism that was lacking.
Mhm.
And so that was when we were like at 5,000. And I was just like, okay, we can't, these numbers don't matter if I have no solid group of people that I can actually give the work to. So that's when I started kind of cutting the group back down. I think we're still at like 2,500. from that cut down, and I have not really let too many other people in. And
Mhm.
then so from that group became like this core group, and then another like sub core group where we're like, we like your design. Let us do an internal project with you so that we can find out if you're capable, how you work with clients. Because some of the client stories I had from people in the group who I very much respected was heartbreaking, right?
Yeah.
And so there had to be this vetting process.
Mm.
And so right now there's the membership site where like it's the people who are pretty hardcore about their career. There's the Facebook group still. There's a Facebook page, and then there's the LinkedIn properties, and they're gonna grow and swell, right? And what I'm really looking forward to right now is building African American graphic designers with colleges, HBCUs, because I've been pitching that to new prospective clients. They're like, "Oh wait, you're working with college students? And you're working with AI?" And like, that's really cool. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
know that I'm winning contracts because I'm presenting this. And
Mhm.
so my next goal is to build it again slowly over time, one HBCU at a time, and then understanding how to like implement some of the things I'm learning, not to just
Mhm.
that group, but to
Mhm.
curriculum for that university.
So when it comes to the curriculum aspect of it, how do you just I know you haven't fully flushed it out, but just how do you see it laying out? Is it more of like hiring black professors, or designers, or is it more of creating the book for it?
So since I'm not at the stage, I don't work for a university.
Mhm.
So I couldn't hire anybody, but I'm always working from the other end, which
Mhm.
is like, okay, I have connections to these people. Let me see what type of things I can present to them.
Right.
Um, I don't know if it's through books. I don't know if kids are reading. I know
I
that
don't think so. I don't think so.
yeah, I know that everybody's really into these shorts, right?
Yes.
Which across every platform, that could be a way. I know through AAGD we have courses, and we're trying to figure out what's a good way to guide people to those courses
Mhm.
so that people can collaborate together and learn
Mhm.
together. I think that's a good way. I also think having more industry professionals that look like us interacting with colleges,
Mm.
not aggressively, but assertively, like reaching out so that you can be present. So that
Mhm.
could be very helpful too. I think having discussions about books as we read them would be very good. Asking them or writing books right now, I don't have an answer for that.
Mm.
I don't even know if people are listening to podcasts anymore if it's not visual, you know? So
Yeah.
like everything is shifting, and it's like how to actually like keep people's attention and help them learn is something that I think we're all trying to figure out in many ways right now.
Okay. So you said something earlier, and I was like, I'm going to ask it, but we were kind of on a roll. You said that we're not just designers; we're creative professionals.
Yeah.
Like, why the distinction, and like, why does it matter?
Right. I think designers come with this stigma that stems from I'm an artist and I like to draw. And I
Mhm.
think designers kind of at this stage is limiting because it really doesn't talk about the business aspect behind it. It doesn't really address that design is changing constantly. It doesn't address tech now. It just so much it doesn't address. So creative professional, especially in a world where all of the jobs that I've seen and people tell me about are asking for somebody who can do social media and content writing and content editing and video and all of this stuff to just stick to the term designer, I think would do a disservice in many ways. Right now, I am leaning towards creative media technologist. I think that's the last title I gave myself for this contract gig that I'm running. And I think that that sums up and puts me in the mental framework to help me like keep learning all these things that are a wider umbrella than just design.
Mm. Yeah,
Especially
because
with the advent of AI. I don't even think because it's
I
doing
was
so much
just
design. Yeah.
I was just about to say, how do you think AI would play into that? Like,
Mm,
I know everybody else is using it, and how do you think AI is going to empower Black designers? Because it's almost
mm.
like, as a designer ourselves, we shun it. Like,
Yeah.
I've learned to teach it to my students as a tool, not as a final piece.
Oh yeah.
Like, use it as a research tool, because it's like I told my students, I was like, "Listen, I know I'm smart because I got a degree before ChatGPT. So, I was like, "Trust me in this little game, this little knowledge that Imma give you because it's like, this won't help you if you don't know the tools. Like,
Yeah.
the tools are what's gonna get you over the hump. This can just help you with brainstorming and idea planning and sketching. So, how do you see AI empowering Black designers and rethinking
Mm.
industry standards?
Yeah, I love that question. Okay, let me tell you something that I'm working on.
Okay.
Being that I'm from New Orleans and like there's this strong rhythmic, there's the blues, jazz, there's all of this stuff. I've been using AI to develop portraits. Like I might take a picture of my wife and put it in AI, and I'll
Mhm.
say, could you please give me an impressionistic painting of this? However, since there weren't a lot of African American or Black artists at that time who were known, could you give me an example of what it would look like if an African American, African, or Black artist painted this in an impressionistic format, but used recursive and polyrhythms in their paint strokes to the so in terms of like empowering us,
Ah,
especially if you're thinking about like Afrofuturism, especially if
yeah.
you're thinking about working with these clients who have these great historical stories that they've never seen illustrated because we have no documentation for it, that's how I feel it can be very empowering because we can put in all of this criteria that no one's ever thought about to create these images that represent our cultural understanding.
Wow. What possessed you to go that route? Like, I'm like, being that I have my MFA, I've studied art. Like, I've literally studied it to a depth. And so hearing your prompting, what would what would possess you to pull that verbiage and terminology together to create this portrait?
Yeah, well, this is gonna be simple because my wife, I just looked at her and I was like, "Oh, this this would be great." But like the longer story
Yeah.
is, so just talking about empowering Blackness and how to use AI. Um, I have been using it. So this guy, his name is Kelvin Phillips. He is in the film industry, and about in '06, I met him in
Mhm.
Austin because he moved here, and he gave me this book called The Age of Spiritual Machines, which was about AI. And this is written by this guy named Ray Kurzweil. Ray
Mhm.
Kurzweil is the guy who did like Kurzweil keyboards. That's what he does. That's what he did, or that's what he's known for. And so, because I was a music major, I was like, "Oh, this is a guy who does the keyboards that I'm working with, and he's writing a book about AI." And
Mhm.
so I read that, and it just scared the shit out of me. I was so, "This is crazy. Is this really gonna happen?" And so since then, since '06, I've just been studying it and watching what's been
Mhm.
happening. And so as I have been studying and thinking about how to implement this, and then Afrofuturism came along, I just started like, I'm really good at asking just like out the box questions. So all I do all day is just ask GPT just like out the box questions and watch it produce something that almost scared. I'm just like, holy crap, I can't believe you did that.
Mhm.
And so going back into history is something that I do when I work with like Death Penalty Information Center or some of my clients where I'm like, okay, there's this thing that happened in 1930, whatever. Let's see if we can reimagine it, like using some of the um the techniques and styles
Mhm.
artists that were, but just add what wasn't there or what's not shown, which is the Black perspective. And
Mhm.
so what I think is gonna be strangely great for, us, how we can is I think we need to right now just step back and restudy all of the movements,
Mhm.
study all of the technology used for printing, for producing media. I think we need to study, like, all of the different Black philosophy. Like, there's so much that we can study right now that we can that can help prompt
Mhm.
ChatGPT in a way that's different. But if you don't know all the specifics of like what a rapidograph does, then you're just going to be like everybody else following like the latest cartoon trend as opposed to approaching it from a professional creative standpoint where you have all of the information and data to create things that are truly inspiring.
Now, do you save your prompts? Do you like 'cause I'm starting to do is put them into, like, a Google Doc, and I'm giving, like, the full outcome of what it looks like. Are you saving these prompts, or are you just kinda letting it live in chat?
I'm letting it live in Chat GPT right now.
Mhm.
The prompts I am saving are the prompts that are like, Chat GPT, teach me how to make this Google string to find specific nonprofit freelance work within
Oh,
these
wow.
sectors.
Okay.
When those things like start generating leads and I'm actually landing gigs, I'm like, okay, I'm saving that. 'cause I don't want to have to look for it again. And
Yeah.
so that's that's something I've been doing. But GPT right now, especially the latest version, now you can have it like go through your whole history. You can ask questions about your history as now it understands. In addition to that, there are these things called what they're not add-ons. Oh, I forget what actions. It might be actions. And
I
it's
think it
actually
is.
yeah, actions. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can have it spit the prompts that you want out to like
Mhm.
a sheet or whatever.
Yeah, like you can download it as like a PDF now or
Yeah,
slides or yeah.
yeah,
Okay, yeah. Cuz
yeah,
I'm always wondering if people are cuz my biggest fear is like as a designer, if you've ever worked on a project and it crashes, the application
oh,
crashes and you didn't have it
right.
backed up or you didn't have it saved. I'm just like, "Oh, I like this prompt. I'm putting this on Google Google Docs." It's like
Yeah, yeah.
I save it because it's like you don't know if chat one day decides to go out and there's another one that pops up, you're like, "Oh, I wonder if this will still give me the same outcome as the other thing." That's why I was curious about
I
that.
will say for client projects, I do save prompts for the projects,
Mm,
especially if I'm
okay.
trying to like hone in on a style and don't never want. I'm not going to rely on GPT because you're right. If it did crash, I'd be so mad at myself. And then there's some prompts that I will take from GPT and then reuse them in Firefly. And so those are
Mhm.
the ones that I'm also. But sometimes those programs have ways of saving it, but like you, I still don't. I'd like to just save one project.
Yeah. My fear is just being a designer and worked on something for 14 hours and then, the application closes crashes. Like, that's my fear.
I feel those days have happened so much less, but I remember in the early days that was like constant. It was so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, so let's stay here with, AI. So you're kinda godfather in it. You are working in it, you are studying it, but you also said you have mixed feelings about it. It's you say you go between hope and fear and excitement.
Right.
So where does it land on the wheel for you today?
Hope, fear, and excitement now. Oh, I am all in, all in. Like studying what happened during the Industrial Revolution and how people responded to that, and just like seeing how people are responding to AI, just like it's sort of the same thing. I use it in my business process. It's changing how I'm doing business. It's changing how I spend money. Because like before I would have like Dubsado or I would have like this complicated intake system. And now I'm just like, oh, I could just use Google because between Google, Zapier, and ChatGPT, there are so many things that I just like my proposals right now that I send to clients. I record our meetings like this, use an AI bot to like scour and scrape that information and reorganize it
The
and make a
notes.
proposal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take that proposal for that AI's made, dropped it in Google Docs, send it to the client, let the client edit it, right? Because there's no reason you shouldn't. I mean, y'all are working together. They can edit the whole thing if they want to. They're gonna know the best way to word it, present to their people. So I've been using it in all of my processes. It's cut down my working to like, I'd say to a fourth of the time that I used to
Mm,
spend doing the entire process, right? So
mhm.
pricing to proposals to working on jobs. My biggest fear is people, black people are going to think it's the devil and stay away from it. And that's going to be just us being that much further behind China and you. It's going to be really bad if we don't catch
Mm.
on.
So how do you find that balance though? Because I feel like how do you keep the human touch along with that computerized? Like how do you find that sweet spot where you don't become fully overtaken by everything?
Right. Yeah. So with my writing and with, like, old sketches, right? I do most of the work. Matter of fact, there's this brilliant article that it's not brilliant, it's a small article that I'm write. It's about, like, me because I love to cook. That's why all the cooking and that she's come in. And, like, I spent the time making, like, this lamb burger and the buns from scratch and all these other things from scratch. Then, like, the story's generated from AI, and I'm just like, "Okay, even though this thing is fully like, the story is fully generated, I told it what to say, I wrote what to say, and I've already built a custom GPT to my voice, and like
Mm.
just adding on all of my writings, so it knows me. And so for me to now think that like, oh, it's taking over or it's doing this thing, and I'm like, not really, because I'm the one who's controlling the input from everything. And as a
Mm.
designer, what I really enjoy is like doing these dirty, quick, ugly sketches and throwing it in and just watching what pops up. So
Yeah.
it cuts my workload, and I don't ever feel like I'm relying on this thing to do
Mhm.
all of my work. It's like I am still in control. I'm still asking it for very specific things. It's a tool.
Oh, okay. Dope. I am on that page now. At first I was like, you're not gonna take my job. Now I'm like, actually, this makes my brain so I'm like, I'm so free. I'm like sitting down. I'm like, this usually would
Yeah,
take me about 4 hours. I'm done in an hour. What
right,
could I do? Maybe go for a walk,
right.
take the dog out? Like,
Yes,
it frees up so
yeah,
much space. So I'm
yeah,
here for it. I'm on the train too. So
yeah.
what do you say for those creatives who are, like, just so hesitant? Like, what would you say to help them get them started and or to help shift the mind state? Because, a lot of
Right.
us are very much in that kinda like, "Hey, hey, hey," like,
Yeah,
we're not our parents, but we're
right.
still very much like,
Yeah,
"I don't wanna touch it." So
yeah.
what would you say to help them to embrace AI?
So, about a month ago when I kinda just not a month, a few months ago when I kinda took a break to just kinda figure out what I'm doing, one of the things I questioned was, "Why am I on social media? Like, what am I doing on social media? What
Mhm,
I don't need to be a thought leader. I could just sit back and make money and not worry about it." But I think the best thing to do is to show them. And that's why I'm doing like if you see on LinkedIn, if you see in the membership side, I am showing people like this is how I use it. I use it on proposals. I use it this way. I don't think I don't think there's one thing you can do to help individuals get over their fear because that's on fun. Again, that's a one-on-one conversation. But the best I can do is just show them how somebody who's been in the game for a while is embracing it and using it and direct them to other people who are doing the same so that they can understand there's nothing to be afraid of. If anything, this, as you said, it frees up time and it allows you to be the creative director you've always wanted to be. It allows us to work for African American businesses who never have the budget, right?
mhm,
But you're like, you don't have the budget, but okay, it's me and AI, and we're about to knock this out. And I know you don't care about it, and I don't care about it. But now, if I can keep my profit margin high, we're all happy.
So do you think it would have to show them how to is it more monetizing it? Like, how this can free up your time, but you can also still make the same amount of money? Or do you think
Yeah,
for them, it'll be more of understanding the whole process? Like, it could help you with your creative process?
yeah. I think that goes back to pushing towards creative media technologies as opposed to designers. Like,
Mhm,
let's go through this entire process, like
mhm,
even down to like. 'Cause, like, when I start giving all the stuff that I'm putting together to clients, like,
mhm,
really fast, for instance, I'll meet with somebody, have, like, the whole meeting, notes, summary, proposal the next morning, beautifully done. The client is like, "Okay, how'd you do that?" And
mm,
so then you start teaching clients, which is another way to make money. So just, like,
mhm,
showing them all of the ways that you can use it to help
mhm.
survive, especially in this current climate and situation, I think is the best way to go about it.
So how do you see using AI to help build a design ecosystem that genuinely honors like diverse voices rather than
Yeah.
just like including them?
Okay, are you talking about just from, like, the small little world that I control? Or are you talking about industry wide or
Well, the small world you control, I understand that, but let's go industry
Okay.
because I think the majority of this is just me personally. I think the majority of black creatives are wanting to probably push towards industry, but it's
Mhm.
just like, so how do you think how could we build how can AI help build an ecosystem that generally honors their voice rather than just including them?
I don't know if you can do it outside of, like, small pods.
Mm,
One of the first conversations I had with a couple of people was like, "Okay, can your group help build this custom GPT?" Right? And I was
mhm,
like, "That's a really good idea, especially if we're talking about like" I mean, I get off track. Especially if we're like talking about sharing artwork and other things, but I think how I use it is a better way to go about it. So how I
okay.
use it is like I have all of this information from all the groups, right?
Mhm,
That I can upload lists. I can upload a
mhm,
lot into GPT and ask it to seek information on individuals and
mhm,
styles and even prices, right? So I have all of this information on us specifically. So the reason or the way I think that it can help us as a whole or use our input not as an afterthought is the only way to do that is to train it on our input because this world is not trained on black people, right? So trying to get
mhm.
AI as a whole to accept industry wide how to include us without us, I don't know if that's going to be possible. I think it's up to us to kind of build our own little networks, use it. especially for like even membership sites, like being able to like ask for commonalities and people I should introduce each other to because it's making connections between people that I wouldn't make. Like
Mhm.
all of those things really help. Am I answering your question or am I
Yeah.
leaving?
No, no, no. No, no, no. Because now it brought me to the question of creating those sites, right? And asking for funding on those sites. Do you
Mm.
think that can turn people off? Or do you think better yet,
When you say
is there value in letting it be free, or is it more valuable to have it behind a paywall? Because
oh, you're talking
some people might see like, oh, like why do I have to pay for this when others don't? When other groups don't, they give it for free. Like, what do you think about that?
okay. So when you say for free, are you talking about like access to this thing that has been made, like a AI or GPT
No, no,
content?
no. I'm more of like how you build these pods, right? And then you have them work and create, and then they learn how to do it, and then they go out, and then like you showed them, but now they're selling it and they're putting it behind a paywall. Do you see that as a hindrance, or do you see that as something that could
Oh,
help
I
the
see what you're saying.
community? Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay, so it could be a hindrance to the community. I would hope ultimately in my dream world that
Mhm.
you would kind of go, okay, this is the pod I built. You can have access to it so that you can connect it to your pod, so that we can have this global brain that we've
Mhm.
all built. Because I think we'd just be putting ourselves back into the silos we've been in if you're going to build this small thing and never actually intend on sharing that input, that output with people.
Okay. Because it's just sometimes it's like you hear about it, and then I don't know, and maybe it's just me, what I've noticed, like, I'm very reflective, like, I look at things and I see things, and it's just like, I think, like, for example, you're Black by Design on LinkedIn, and then you have your
Let me get that. That is not my group specifically.
oh,
That's one of the groups that I am. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, 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 go for it.
There are many groups that I do not like. I did not originate, but because I know how to run social media, online communities. It was like me.
No, no, I didn't. Okay, let me rephrase that. Maybe I can edit that out. But
Okay.
what I mean is like your AAGD, like
Uh-huh.
your that one. It's like I see when you sent it to me, I was like, oh, this is dope. And then it's like you see the price. So it's like to me, it doesn't affect me, you know. But it's like,
Mm.
what if it is fresh out of they did their associates and they're trying to, find that community, but they don't have the finance at the
Oh my
time to
gosh.
you see what I mean? That's probably
Uh,
more of what I'm looking at because it's
yeah.
like I'm established. I have things set up. I'm good to go. So paying is not a problem for me. But
Yeah.
then it's just like, what about the younger ones who are coming up? And it's not to like take anything away from you, but it's just this is a thought I've had because many a time, as you know, culturally for us, we like it for the free.
Yeah.
But it's like it's crazy. It's like when it's us, they want it for the free, but when it's somebody else, they'll pay that. So it's just like,
Mm.
what do you think about that? Maybe that's
Yeah.
more of the line I was
That
looking towards.
that is the question I want to answer. Because it's a question I think about every day.
Mm,
Every day. Yesterday, let me tell you my answer. My answer was, okay, I need to make part of this free or like part of it $5 for a year.
mhm,
And like, if they can't pay $5 for a year, I mean, we can have a conversation about that, but that's so little.
right.
The Facebook group was free for I don't know how many years, but what happens is it becomes impossible to sustain. I mean, it takes an unbelievable amount of my time to
Mhm,
like moderate, create content for, have these discussions with other people, put together the pot. Like it just takes an unsurmountable amount of energy and it's just not sustainable. And plus,
mhm,
I do feel like if it is free, then it starts a bad standard. Because what I feel happened with the Facebook, once it's free, nobody's going to pay for it. And
mhm,
yet, if you can't afford to keep it running because you're invested all your time, then like you're burning out. You have nothing to show for it other than like
mhm.
cool friends, right?
Right.
But I do think what you're asking is very valid. I do think there should be some free part of it, and I'm probably going to restructure that like ASAP,
Mhm,
and then allow people who want to have like advanced courses decide to pay. And like, there's a possibility I could always make it free for college students. You know, it's
mhm.
luckily it's my thing, right? And if
Right.
I see enough traction, if I see enough people showing up, because that's the other thing. I make it free, but that doesn't mean that people are going to show up. And right now it's free and they're not showing up. And it's that it just becomes like this. It's hard not to be insulted by it.
Mhm.
Oh, it's hard to like understand how to keep moving forward when
Right.
that's, what you're dealing with. But you're all right. I think part of the problems with the in design industry of things have costed so much that it's prohibitive for us.
Yeah.
I do try to keep the cost for AAGD as low as possible. I think it's like $50 for a year for one tier.
Mhm.
But I am considering going back to making it free.
Okay.
At least some
Just
portion.
it was just something I've noticed just in life in general. It's like
Yeah.
when we put something together and we put a dollar amount on it, we seem to not get the support. But when it's
Yeah.
free, it's like all access. You kind of hit the like they take it and then they flip it into something they can make money off of, or it
Yeah,
just
but if
sits there and goes away.
if they flip, so that's the thing that's like crazy about being a community builder. Like they flip it and they make money off of it, and you're just like, okay, so you didn't want to pay for this, but you're making money. But and like there are some things that happen with me, and Maurice may have talked about it also. Like people will connect and have these long lasting relationships, and it's just like, oh, you've been hooked up with this person for how long? Y'all been designing work together? And they're like, yeah, well, we started from your group, and then I'm like, and you never told me. You never told the group. And it's like, it's small things like that where I'm like, it's very hard to have a community with us because it's like we have not been taught how to do things that are reciprocal. And it doesn't have to
Mhm.
be financial, but it could be like, hey, let me cook dinner. Have you eaten? What can I do? Can I host something? Something. But with us, it's like
Yeah.
it's unfortunately a lot of nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I will say the good thing that I never expected and the thing that keeps me going is
Mhm.
there are two things that happen. I'll talk to a client and they're like, oh, yeah, I've been using your site for like 3 years to find designers. And we're finally having a budget. We think we have enough budget to work with you. And I'm like, oh, because I was gonna take that page down. So I guess it is like helping the African American community as a whole and for them to
Mhm.
speak such highly of that resource. I've had that happen 2 times this year. I was like,
Wow.
that makes me feel really good. And then when designers that I talked to like years ago reach out like randomly, I had that happen like 5 times this year, right when I was at my lowest. And they were just like, nah, you need to keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate this. And I was like, oh, okay. So if you build community, you might not get all the bells and whistles that you had in your mind, but you'll at least have people encouraging you and helping you sustain your life. And maybe that's sometimes better than a lot of people.
So the $1,000,000 question, you seem like you're a jack of all trades, hands in every pot. How do you hit what do you do when you hit creative burnout or tech fatigue?
Yeah, so I don't really hit those. So especially with GPT now, that's another story. But so
Mhm.
I individualize my days so that they're well balanced. And that way I don't burn out. It's
Mm,
back to the whole design of life. Like, I did feel like for a while I was sitting in front of okay, after COVID, right?
mm,
So I was working at my other gig at UT as the interactive marketing manager for like 11 years while running AAGD, which
mhm,
allowed me to like make my money and then give out more money to the community as I was kind of
mhm,
decide. And so when COVID hit, I was let go, but I already had my business running. So I've been running this business from my upstairs, I don't know, office, bedroom, loft for like, I don't know, 6 years. And yeah, yeah, loft, exactly.
uh-huh,
Yeah, it does get like tech fatigue. I don't know if it was tech fatigue or like I just want to be around other people, or it was, do I want to just continue making logos bigger and feeling like, even with working for the social justice places I work for, at sometimes it's
mhm,
like, do I really want to change the individual's life or do I want to just continue to do this? So one of my ways to not get fatigued is to take a job working where I'm like changing people's lives, but I'm still able to run because it's another way for my brain to refresh and from
mhm,
focus without being so focused on sitting in front of this.
mhm,
My routine, I wake up pretty early, bring my kid to school, and then like I've got exercise, I've got martial arts, I've got teaching. I'm
mhm,
not teaching. Martial arts. Well, I'll call it teaching, mentoring. So there are so many other things I do in my day that don't exactly focus on sitting up in front of the computer and creating that I feel that I am able to sustain.
Like
Um,
that, it's like almost like a digital break.
yeah, it is. So I feel like cooking is definitely one of those things because,
Mhm.
I cook for my wife in the middle of the day. So I'm not like, I'm gotta finish this. I'm like, no, I gotta stop this because I gotta cook.
Yeah.
Or I might start bread in the morning. I'm like, no, I got to take care of my bread, so I'm going to stop this because I think I have a tendency to believe that we get so focused on working sometimes
Mhm.
that we don't
Yep.
implement those things. I know so many people who don't have those things implemented.
Mhm.
So making sure that you put those things in your life and implement them on a regular basis for me
Mhm.
helps with that. Also reading is something that I do
Yeah.
avidly. That helps because it's always giving me fresh and new ideas and different perspectives. So that's something else. Talking to people, going to social events, sitting at a bar, all those things help me from like creative burn and
Oh,
tech burnout.
man. I do some of those same things.
Okay.
Sitting down, reading audiobooks, going for walks. School's coming to an end, so I'm about to go back to the gym. So it is I feel you on that because I just feel like my brain feels like it just gets like a whiteboard eraser. Like it just
Yeah.
wipes it clean and you're just like, "Oh, wow, this feels good. This feels good."
Yeah.
So, Terrence, we've been rolling and you're giving us gems, but before we go, let's have a little bit of fun. So
All right. All right.
this is gonna be rapid fire. You just
Okay.
say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay. Ooh. All right. Dangerous.
Favorite New Orleans dish that you can't find in Austin?
None. I cook them all.
Oh, okay.
I just made shrimp creole this morning for breakfast, so I'm good.
Good answer right there. All right. AI tool you're currently obsessed with.
ChatGPT, custom GPTs
Mm,
all day, all day.
Dream collaboration, living or dead.
Ooh, design or
Oh,
okay. So
you could give
living,
me either or.
I'm gonna do Terrence Blanchard, musician from New Orleans, does scores for music. I will collaborate with him in any way he wants to collaborate.
Okay. Underrated design book or resource every creator should check out or have
Ooh.
in their library.
Okay, can I give more than one?
Yes, absolutely.
The Elements of Typographic Style by Robert Bringhurst. Boring book. Best book you'll ever read in your entire life to understanding like the basis, like typography.
Mhm,
It goes over that in such detail, tells you how it was made with music, like all of those symbols and all that shit was made together, and it just
mhm,
gives you a different understanding. Um, for negotiation, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Every designer
mhm,
should read that, especially if you run your business. And I will say Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. For every communicator across the board, you have to read this book because it'll make your life with your clients, the people you communicate, and your family so much easier.
mhm. Okay. So, if you could tell your younger self, fresh out of design school, sketching in your first notebook, what would you say to yourself?
Oh man, so many different things. It's not going to be how you think. I would give myself some encouragement. I would say that no matter what, you're not going to give up.
Mhm.
That would be great. And I would also say, hey, those business courses that you don't want to take.
Take 'em.
Take 'em.
Excellent. Well, Terrence, before we get up out of here, is there anything else? Where can the people find you? You have anything coming up that you would like to share?
Absolutely. I'm going to be talking at Creative Pro Live in Arizona in June, giving a talk on UI, UX in community, not
Mhm,
just user interface, but then like how you can teach somebody to use your hand to punch instead of a wall because they have behavioral problems and how that affects
mhm,
community building for everybody else. So I'll be giving that talk. You can find me on LinkedIn where I'm going to be talking more about how I use AI differently and
mhm.
AAGD, African American Graphic Designers. That's unity.aagd.co. That's where you'll find the community where you can talk to me anytime.
So, well, you guys, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. My name is Justin Robinson. I have the talented, most multifaceted. If you need AI help, he's the man to come to. Terrence, Terrence Moline, and we'll catch you guys later. Peace.
How about y'all? Thank you, sir.